Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of my live tea tasting. I've got a great show for you guys today, and I'm doing something a little bit different. Normally I do a tea tasting, I review whatever tea of the week I'm doing, but this month I'll be doing something a little bit different. This time I'll be reviewing teaware and the tools that we use to brew a proper cup of tea. Now today is something that I've been waiting to do for quite a while, and it's something that I've been excited to do, and I was kind of inspired earlier this week to actually do it, because we had a discussion with, hey Sneha, welcome! We had a bit of a discussion on the Tilula Tea Chat about Yixing teapots, and they mentioned something that I never knew that they did, but I'll get into that in just a little bit. Today, we're going to be reviewing Yixing teapots. And this is something that's a little bit out of the ordinary because generally, everybody knows the regular teapots, mostly porcelain, but this one is made actually from mud, from Yixing, China. And this is an authentic piece. Hey Zam, good morning. This is an authentic piece that requires a little bit of extra care, but I will get into that in just a little bit. Right now, I'm going to do something that I haven't done in quite some time. I'm going to actually brew the tea in front of you. Now, today we're going to go with milk oolong for two reasons. One, this teapot has already been seasoned for the milk oolong taste. Now, what that means is traditionally, when you pick a tea to go into your Yixing pot, you do not want to divert from any other kind of tea because that would ruin the taste. Yixing, since this is mud, absorbs the taste of the tea, all the flavors and everything that goes along with it. So when you brew a cup of tea, it stays in there. Little traces stay in there forever. So you don't want to get too many different teas in there, otherwise you'll lose to that you're trying to achieve. Reason number two, oh god, already this thing is giving me a bad signal. Am I still on? Yeah? Okay. I don't know if that's me or my computer, but anyway, sorry about that. Reason number two is that the tea leaves actually stay in here. So I'm going to be using milk oolong so that it can survive a longer steep for the demonstration. So for those of you who remember, milk oolong is pelleted. So you can see this is one big leaf that's just been rolled and punctured and rolled and punctured, and it comes out in a pellet, and so it can take on stronger temperatures for longer. That's reason number two. I'm going to go ahead and fill it. Now this is just going to need a little bit, about a teaspoon of tea, because when it expands a lot. So I'm going to be steeping this tea at about 200, maybe 198 degrees, between 198 and like 205. I want to keep this semi-cool so that it doesn't burn the leaf staying in there. I'm also going to steep it at 3 minutes instead of 5. So this is going to be the kind of tea that you steep and re-steep over and over again, which traditionally is what you'll want to do with this teacup. I mean, sorry, the tea, the teapot. I also have 2 Yixing teapots. Teacups. I'm having issues right now. And this is for very good reason. I'm going to be drinking from one of them, but the other one has a bit of a specific reason for it as well. So let's go ahead and one thing about this. I'm not going to really be able to show because the cameras aren't going to show it anyway. But the Yixing pot does not have a it does not have a filter of any sort. So that's a third reason why we use the big leaves, so that it doesn't come out of the pot while you are making it. So I'm going to go ahead and let that steep for a little bit, and then once it comes out, I'll go ahead and start the tasting process as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about care for the pot. Now, normally when you have a teapot, be it porcelain, be it cast iron, they tend to last a lot longer. They're not as delicate, but they don't affect the taste as much as a Yixing pot does. Yixing, because it's mud, you get extra minerals. You get trace amounts. There was some concern that people are afraid to drink from Yixing pots because they think that the minerals and stuff are poisonous. That's just ridiculous. People have been thanks, Sneha. People have been drinking from Yixing pots for hundreds and hundreds of years. So if this was killing people, we would have known it by now. However, it does affect the taste. It gives it more of an earthy kind of taste because it is actual earth that you're consuming. Very, very little. Not only are you tasting the teapot, but you're also tasting it from the Yixing cups. Now, I did a bit of an experiment earlier because I wanted to know what the difference would be when drinking from a Yixing pot versus cast iron versus porcelain. Sorry, had a little bit of a brain fart there. Well, everyone who drank for this from 100 years ago are dead, are they not? You might be surprised, because I think the oldest person in the living today is like 100 and, I want to say 102, 103. There was somebody who recently passed away who was like 112. So, I mean, most of them are, but you'll have, looks like my tea is done. So most of them are, but yeah, most of them, some of them are not. So, ooh, that's hot. Anyway, going back to the tea, I wanted to figure out what the differences were between drinking from a Yixing pot versus cast iron versus, ooh, that smells so nice, versus porcelain. And what I used was Lapsang Souchong, the strongest, smokiest tea I could figure out, I could find, so that if there was going to be a difference in the taste, that would have to be significant enough for me to pick up. So if you can fight through all that smokiness, you'd find it interesting. And what I did find was there was a difference with everything. There was the Yixing pot had a bit of a saltier but sweeter flavor. The cast iron was earthier, smokier, and it really like held in the smoky flavor of it, while the porcelain gave it a more earthy, light, balanced, muddy flavor, which was interesting because, this is actually made of mud. So it's going to be, I thought it would be a completely different experience. So, as you may have noticed, I filled up 2 cups. One is to consume, but the other is for the teapot itself. Now, maintaining a Yixing teapot, it's really, really important to make sure that you wet it every couple of months or so that it doesn't dry up and start to crack. Now, technology has improved so that you can go longer periods of time without it, but the older the teapot, the more maintenance it needs. So usually you would have to, for the old ones, you would have to bathe it in its own tea for maybe once a week. And that's why I poured the second cup, because it's said that the flavor of the tea is captured on the outside as well as the inside. So let's go ahead and bathe it in its own tea. Just pour it all over. And they actually have teapots for the same purpose. Now, what it is, it's more for like a cleansing ritual. You don't really, it's not really necessary, but you pour the first cup of tea to the people that you don't like, because it has all the dirt and the mud and the stuff from the original plucking and for the processing. Nowadays, everything is a lot more sanitary, so I don't find it necessary to do it, but a lot of people do. Totally up to them. So they have teapots where you pour the tea on top of them to share it and give them their due, and then you can serve the following pots and cups to your guests. So let's go ahead and taste this from the actual Yixing cup. Oh, that is absolutely delicious. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the milk oolong that's on here, because I've already done milk oolong years ago. It's on my YouTube channel. And I don't want to distract from the original purpose of this stream, which is talking about the pot itself. But really, when you drink from here, you can taste taste the cup more than if you were to drink it from a porcelain. And that was something that was discussed on the chat as well. Some places actually glaze the inside of a Yixing pot. And that's because, they say that it offers protection. And, you can clean it using soap, which you're not supposed to do it with this teapot, because then the soap soaks into the mud and it gets bitter, and you just don't want to deal with it. But there's a counter argument where that kind of defeats the purpose, because you want to have that flavor enhanced by past teas. So it kind of you miss out on quality of the cup by glazing the pot, and there's really no reason to do that except preference, Let's go ahead and pour another cup, because this stuff is incredible. Milk oolong has been one of my favorites for years. It's really vegetal, it's really sweet. It's usually pretty, if it's done right, it's pretty light at first, but then with every steep after, it gets slightly darker and darker. It doesn't really get super duper earthy. It's always going to stay kind of grassy, but it goes from sweet to savory in light steps. And because this tea is all balled up and it's nice and tight, it can take a lot of abuse. And so it really takes about 4 or 5 steeps, just the way that I had done it, where it was lower temperature, short amount of time. Of course, time is irrelevant when you're doing it in a Yixing because there's no way to decant it until all the liquid is out. Otherwise, you wind up spilling all the tea to get the leaves out. It's a huge mess. So now that this has been in there for about, I want to say 15 minutes, I'm getting a little bit of astringency. Of course, it stands to reason because you're not drinking this rapidly. So it's in there. It's pulling out all of the tannins from the leaf that aren't meant to be pulled out for this long. Usually, you'll just pour, drink, and you finish the pot in a quick enough amount of time so that it doesn't really reach astringency. But even still, I'm getting like a smooth, buttery taste. There is a slight astringency on the tip of my tongue. Luckily, I didn't do it too hot. Otherwise, it would have burnt the leaf, and my second cup would taste like soap. So I very much did this on purpose, knowing that this would be a longer session in between. And so the next time I steep it, hopefully the leaves will just be reset and you'll be able to enjoy it without having that extra bitterness that came out from the first steep. And I'm just going to keep on pouring this because, bitterness and all, it still tastes really good. And I can still kind of taste the earthiness of the pot. And when I talk about tea being a sensual drink, the sense of touch is ever present when you're drinking, even in the pot itself, because there's a difference between touching a porcelain pot and a porcelain cup, a cast iron pot and a cast iron cup. There is different textures, different feelings, different heaviness. So I want to talk about that a little bit. When you're feeling a Yixing pot, it's more of a clay. It doesn't have the solid strength of a cast iron, nor does it have the smoothness of a porcelain. So you're gonna have it's gonna feel like clay. It's gonna feel slightly grainy. It's gonna feel slightly like a light sandpaper, and it's very lightweight as well. And the temperature of the tea passes through it a lot easier than it would through porcelain and cast iron. Cast iron tends to be the longest running temperature holder. But you'll be able to feel it on the outside. When you touch it, it'll burn. But it also lasts a whole lot longer. Same with porcelain. Porcelain tends to hold the temperature longer as well. Yixing does not, because it's not meant to hold the tea longer. You're supposed to drink it as it goes, before it gets too before it gets too bitter. Another thing about Yixing, which I appreciate, is the fact that it feels very delicate. You know, it's not very strong. It's not. It can be fragile, but not like breaking your hand fragile. More like just don't drop it, you'll be fine. You'll also notice that the flavor profile of this blend varies the more you use it versus glazed pots or cast iron. I don't even know if they make unglazed cast iron. I have a couple of pots. A lot of them are unglazed on the outside but glazed on the inside. I have one pot I'm not too sure of. I'll have to check that later on. But I wonder what the dynamics of that would be, because one, it'll, just like any cast iron skillet, what's unglazed cast iron? Well, you know, on the inside where it's like super smooth, almost glass, that's the glaze. It's just a layer of smoothness, and what it's meant to do is protect the metal from the tea. Which, I mean, it stands to reason because you don't want it to rust, but by that same token, the way cast iron skillets absorb flavor, so do cast iron teapots. So I don't know if they have unglazed cast iron teapots. I mean, I'm sure they existed at one point because, you know, the technology didn't exist yet. So, you know, like when you watch old movies in the past where they have like the kettle on the open fire, that kind of a thing where you won't find it glazed. So I wonder if they still make unglazed, and the maintenance on that must be like you'd have to be very careful before it starts to rust inside. So not only would you have to like wash it, scrub it, turn it upside down so that it drains and it doesn't rust, you probably have to heat it dry the way you do a cast iron skillet. I have to check. I might have one, but I don't know. That might be something I'll do next week, since I am doing tea tools this month. But in any case, I digress. They were talking about glazing the inside of a Yixing pot, and that idea just does not appeal to me at all, because like I want the flavor to be there. I want the flavor to remain. I'm going to give it another bath while I speak. I want the flavor to remain inside so that my future pots will always be more heavily flavored. Now, what I'm also noticing is that these clay cups dry really quickly. So you see on the inside, it's already almost dry. It basically absorbs into the bottom. So you have the outside that's completely dry, and the bottom, which I spread the tea a little bit so that you can see the difference between the sides. It's so reflective on the inside because it's wet, versus this one, which is the one that I used just to bathe the pot, and already you can see on the edges it's already dry. So this stuff, it dries pretty quickly, and that's something I've always admired about it, because maintenance, while it's necessary, it makes it a whole lot easier as well. You don't have to sit there and wait for it to dry too long, and everything. It's a chore because you have to do it more often, but it's also really simple to actually do. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the comments and questions. If you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to ask. I can't really pair a teapot with anything, so unfortunately I can't answer my sister's question today. Of course, if I were to pair the milk oolong itself with the tea, with food, I'd probably do something light like salmon. What are the other teas that go well in a Yixing pot? In a Yixing kettle? I mean, it's a Yixing pot. It's not the kettle because we don't want to heat the water in this. But you could put the trick to it. The trick to it is traditionally it's milk oolong or different kinds of oolongs. But you can do any kind of tea in there. Just as long as you're consistent as to which tea you use. I mean, there's a lot of people that I know that broke the rules and just put whatever tea in there. They don't care as much, which, I mean, it's fine, to each their own. But that being said, if you want the best teas to do it with are the stronger ones, because you're going to want to capture the flavor as you as the tea absorbs into the pot. The flavor of that is going to be harder to maintain if you do a lighter tea. So you're going to have to, like, let's say silver needle. If we do silver needle on here, we won't really get a seasoned pot as quickly as we would if we did Lapsang Souchong. I have another Yixing pot which I did my my Lapsang with, and that one, I mean, I only did it once, but you can still almost smell it. It was, I believe, when did I do that? Was it October? When I did it in October, it, like, you could still kind of sort of smell the smokiness in it, but it's still very light, but it's there. It would probably, and that was just one steep. It would probably take a lot more steeps of a white tea or a silver needle to start seeping into it where it becomes more visible to the senses. And that includes also bathing it on the outside. So to make the long answer, which I know it's too late, the long answer to a short question, what can you do? You can do anything. You know, it's just a matter of consistency. And, you know, it's also, it takes a certain love and appreciation for Yixing. It's not for everyone. You know, some people take a Yixing pot and they put it on display, and they either never use it because, I mean, like, look at this. It's a gorgeous looking pot. You know, you have a dragon here, phoenix here, and, you know, these are generally well designed, very beautiful to look at, and it's the kind of thing where you just put in your china cabinet and not touch. But by that same token, if you do use it, it takes maintenance. You know, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes appreciation. I bathe this at least once every 6 months because it is a newer pot. It doesn't need to have that regular maintenance. But just like regular china, it needs to be moistened. It needs to have some sort of usage. Otherwise, it becomes brittle and you lose it too soon. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. This has been an incredible experience, and I will be coming in for the rest of the month with different kinds of tea tools, teaware, tea stuff, and I hope I hope you guys join me for that. So until next time, have a great week, a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you later. Bye.